Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
Finding your perfect home was hard, but thanks to Burrow, furnishing it has never been easier. Burrow's easy-to-assemble modular sofas and sectionals are made from premium, durable materials, including stain and scratch-resistant fabrics. So they're not just comfortable and stylish, they're built to last. Plus, every single Burrow order ships free right to your door. Right now, get 15% off your first order at burrow.com/ACAST. That's 15% off at burrow.com/ACAST.
Hello guys, Merry Christmas to you on this early December day. And here in Australia, in Canberra, this is Heavy Metal Tones, brought to you by your podcast host, Tony Evans. This week's episode is the guitar solos and the music between the notes. What do I mean by that? Well, firstly, in the first part, we're going to chat about guitar solos in general, and then some of my favourites in the second part. We all listen to heavy rock and heavy metal and punk and rock and roll in general here on this podcast, I'm sure. And we're all quite aware of the lead guitar and the guitar in general in our fondness for this music. Let's be honest with you, without the guitar, rock and roll would not exist. Well, it would be very dull if it did. I've had a fascination with the six-string guitar since I was very, very young, probably since I was about 7 or 8. Some of my earliest memories of me getting my brother's tennis racket and getting black electrical tape and putting electrical tape on the tennis racket handle to represent frets, and then I would play along to the music. I would pretend that the strings coming off the handle were the strings. I got caught many times deep in the juju, as they say, playing solos and rhythm when my mum would come into the room and I didn't know she was standing there and I was playing along to something, usually Iron Maiden-y or Def Leppard-y or something like that anyway, when I was younger. I actually made my brother's albums, so probably Deep Purple and Jethro Tull and stuff like that. Yes, and Genesis. Anyway, so it's deep rooted in the ethos of rock and roll, the six string. Sadly, it is. I think it's no longer the thing that people look to be. You know, when we were kids, my generation, the 70s and 60s, early 80s, it was something you wanted to do, play, own, because it meant that you were a part of the band and people looked up to you. Guitar heroes, I mean, that again is another dead concept, I think, which is really sad. No longer the likes of Clapton and Beck and Moore and Green, that just don't really exist anymore. They are very proficient, wonderful guitarists, and I know quite a few of them, but they're not people that you would go to see a band because they're playing most of the time. Not modern ones anyway. I could be wrong, guys. Please, let me know. Contact me at my on my email address at heavymetaltones.com. Sorry, heavymetaltones@gmail.com.au or .com, or come to my Facebook page. That's New Album and All Things Metal, or just and let me know where I'm wrong there. But I'm sure that you understand where I'm coming from. So imagine there's me with my tennis racket, wanted to be a guitarist. I remember sitting in the school. I had the choice of playing football or going and playing guitar at Mr. King's English classroom at lunch break where he was teaching kids to play things like Stairway to Heaven, and I'm sure I haven't said this on the podcast just yet, but I really don't like Led Zeppelin, and apart from a couple of tracks, of course, but I just don't. I viscerally can't listen to it, and it's because I was forced to as a kid in school, in the classroom by Mr. King. I love him. If he, wonderful teacher, but we too much of that. Brother loved them. It was something like you just had to listen to it, and it got under my skin, and I can't do it anymore. But anyway, there was that choice of that or playing football. What do? I went and played football. Do I regret that? Yes, I do. Am I a professional footballer? No. Am I a professional musician? No. I'm neither of those. And I really wish that I would probably be a better guitarist than I did a football player. And for those around the world, when I say football, I mean soccer, the round ball game. I know it's named different things all over the world. The beautiful game. Anyway, that aside, so I played that, and I got a guitar when I was 10. My brother bought me a second-hand one from an op shop or a Goodwill store in America, and they put he had no pickups, and he bought me pickups, and he put them in, and he wired them in because he was an electrician, and I had no amplifier, so it was no good anyway. I had the pickups, but I couldn't plug it into anything. He then, after about 4 or 5 years of me owning a guitar I couldn't actually plug in, but I could strum, he bought me a second-hand amplifier called an Orbital Stage 1, like a 1960s valve amp, which he tried to then convert to capacitor, but blew it up because it wasn't designed for that. Anyway, that's another story, but it was a fun moment, fun while it lasted. So I had this deep love of guitar, and like a lot of us did, and the people that played them, and the mystique behind it, because we couldn't do it. So there's a mystique behind it. You'd watch someone like Clapton play the solo in Sunshine for Your Love, and I Feel Free, and Beck or Beckola, and Peter Green, anything Peter Green really, anything with early Fleetwood Mac, Stephen Hackett with Genesis, and Martin Barre with Jethro Tull, even people like and of course the great guitarists like Brian May. I don't like Queen either. Please don't hype me down. I just don't like them. But Brian May, brilliant. All of them. I could go through hundreds of guitarists that I admire, but they're the sort of ones that jump out at me. KK Downing and people like that. Of course, all of the great modern metal guitarists. But and so we admired them, and we wanted to be them and play them. And when you listen, Steve Rothery from Marillion was big influence on me. So we'd listen to the guitars, we'd listen to the songs, and we couldn't wait to get to the guitar solo. And you got there, and up to a certain point, up to a certain era, guitar solos were really driven with the blues and jazz influences and rock and roll influences. So they were sort of restricted on what those guitarists could do. Most of them trained in the blues, so they were in that sort of 12-bar, and they were playing pentatonic scales and minor and major pentatonic scales, so nothing outrageous, but they were living with these. They were restricted with what they could do, and because they were restricted with their knowledge of the fretboard, they were very creative. I think people who are restricted with like great art, if you look at some of the great paintings, if you give someone 4 colours, they'll create great art. If you give them 1,000 colours, they'll make a mess. It's all down to restriction and what you can do with what you have, I believe, anyway. And so guitar solos were, they were, and let's be honest, it was, in the middle of the song, it was maybe 10 seconds long, but it was really, really memorable. It was exciting, exhilarating. They were always different. Tony Iommi, I forgot Tony Iommi, who's the biggest influence on me as a guitarist. You listen to his stuff and you know that he had no fingertips and he played with extra light strings that he basically used, I think, mandolin strings, or I can't get me wrong. Sorry, I've read his book and I know he's many times, but he's light strings, and so he could bend them and he could, hold them without the pain because he had very sore fingers. Creative, there you go. So you restricted, so creative. Django Reinhardt, please people, if you don't know who he is, YouTube Django Reinhardt, watch him. He only had 3 fingers, and it's a big influence on Tony Iommi when he had his accident. If Django could make that kind of music, like very very in-depth jazz chops with just a few fingers, then he could do the same thing. And so it influenced him. And so the solos were memorable, effective, and a great way of breaking the song up, giving emotion, and just drawing you into the song, just like in a wax and wane, build it up, bring it down, come into the solo, break out the solo into the finish, and maybe a little guitar at the end, but always with that rhythmic guitar in the background. Now, I'm not talking about rhythm guitar. That's a different beast. This is purely solos, and then of course techniques come and go, right? Again, this is from a basic guitar point of view. I mean, I know that people like Joseph from Pure Envy and other friends of mine who are guitar teachers, and Joseph is as well at the moment a guitar teacher. He'll tell you lots of other things, the picking technique, sweep picking, chicken picking, overhand picking, finger picking, tapping, all that sort of techniques that you can employ to create beauty in your solos. But if you go way back to the beginning of rock and roll and to blues, and look at the blues men. My favorite blues guitarist was Albert King. He played all his solos on one string. Yeah, come on now, Steve Jones of the Pistols. What an amazing! I mean, again, should be on my list of guitarists that influenced me, but knows nothing about the guitar. Plays all his solos on 1 or 2 strings. Well, he did. He's much more accomplished now, but what everyone remembers them. Same as George Harrison of the Beatles. His guitar solos are very simple, beautiful and effective. Lilting and lyrical. And this is where I'm going to come to in the second part. So this, what I was talking about, the birth of the guitar solo is something of, if it was just about a way of showing your virtuosity, put my teeth in, tone, breaking up the music so that you go into sort of acts, giving the music some gravitas, and then also giving it a little bit more texture, right? Not just showing off. It was about, a great guitarist can say more with a few notes than a lyricist can say in pages of words. And those out there that can do it, I mentioned before, the Claptons of this world, the Becks of this world, the Peter Greens, the Gary Moores, and forgive me if I've forgiven Brian Mays, the Tony Iommis, the Stephen Rothery's, that really draw you and make you want to watch them and their solos, because you just can't believe that people can make such beautiful things with their fingers and their imaginations within the constraints and restrictions of modern tablature and music. It's just wondrous. And this is all, a lot of this stuff is all pre-special effects, all pre-pedals. A lot of the stuff that's really the first part I'm talking about, when it was just you into the amp with an overdrive, like with a chorus, if that, just a lot of gain on your all the way up to 10. When the pedals start coming around, with Clapton starts bringing in pedals, when when the guy from the Kinks, Pardon me 1 second. I cannot remember his name. Oh, God, age. Give me a second. That's better. When Ray Davies or Dave Davies, it could be either one of them, split their speaker cone and cabinet cone, and it fuzzed, and that heavy fuzz sound. A lot of people say, did he invent that? I think he probably, a lot of people say he did, that heavy fuzz tone sound, and then we replicated it with pedals and so on. Of course, there are lots of innovations before main pedals, but up at that point, people just, however they could create that sound, they created that sound, you know. Peter Frampton, well, I forgot him as well. Oh my God, too many. Peter Frampton with his, you know, the pipe and his tube in his mouth, and the making the sounds with his singing through the pedal and then through the guitar, you know. And there's another guitar genius of unbelievable talent, again, only playing within that sort of blues construct, not going into all the craziness of Lydian and Mixolydian and all that sort of weirdness and scales. Anyway, that's the first part. So as I said, conclusion of the first part, guitar solos were part of the music and part of the texture of the song. I think we're coming into the second part. I'm going to talk about the modern guitar solo and why sometimes they irritate me. Anyway, I'll see you on the other side. I'm going to get a cup of tea. Hope you get a cup of tea and relax and listen to the second part.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Ready to pop the question? The jewelers at BlueNile.com have got sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds, and they're ready to ship to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code LISTEN to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code LISTEN at BlueNile.com for $50 off. BlueNile.com, code LISTEN.
Finding your perfect home was hard, but thanks to Burrow, furnishing it has never been easier. Burrow's easy-to-assemble modular sofas and sectionals are made from premium, durable materials, including stain and scratch-resistant fabrics. So they're not just comfortable and stylish, they're built to last. Plus, every single Burrow order ships free right to your door. Right now, get 15% off your first order at burrow.com/ACAST. That's 15% off at burrow.com/ACAST.
Talk to you soon. Welcome back to the second part of the show. The guitar solos and the music between the notes. Now, why did I say that before? You're probably thinking, why did you mention that earlier? Buffy's rambling around. So, the greatest guitar solos that you'll listen to, and the greatest guitar soloists or greatest guitarists, it's not about the amount of notes that they fill the air with. It's about the space between the notes, in my opinion. Dave Gilmour. I'm not a Pink Floyd fan, you all know that, but the amount of space and breath between each note that he chooses says more about his ability and his understanding of the music than putting like a Yngwie J. Malmsteen million notes in there. Here's a side note. Hey guys, why is it Yngwie J. Malmsteen? How many Yngwie Malmsteens are there that you've got to put a J in? I've always thought that. Anyway, Mr. Uwengi and his million notes. So, as I said before, it's all about the breath between the notes for me. I know that in thrash and in hardcore heavy metal, it's speed, right? But even speed solos can have breath and moments in it. Okay, even they can. Listen to the space between the notes that Tony Iommi leaves. All right, in all of, my favourite guitar solo of his, which is "Dirty Women," of Technical Ecstasy. Controversial, I know, because there's a lot of his solos are wonderful, but that for me is him at his bluesy best, and there's breaths in there, and there's drawn notes in there, and it's just, stylized. Don't get me wrong, when Van Halen hit the scene and with Eruption and could play, all this double-handed tapping, which was not his invention. Okay, the tapping was invented by Stephen Hackett from Genesis way before then. It was just made more. It was done with more speed and ferocity, and honestly, in a more accessible way by Eddie. God rest your soul. Anyway, but it's this. You can have a million notes playing, and it's very impressive. Don't get me wrong. Watching a really fast solo is really impressive. I've had the opportunity to see Herman Lee live from Dragon Force a handful of times now. Not as many as Dave, the biggest Dragon Force fan in the world. Dave, if you're listening, hello. The Hat, as I mentioned before. Dave, I understand where he's coming from. He loves that pretty technicality, the speed and the virtuosity, and almost the cleanliness of it. Sometimes the best solos only have breadth in or breathes breath within the notes, but they're also a bit dirty, a bit rock and rolly, a little bit scratchy, a little bit dropped notes here, not quite getting it there. And that's why Steve Jones writes amazing guitar solo. The guitar solo in God Save the Queen. It's very, very simple, but you all remember it. It's all dirty. It's all punky. It's from the streets. It's not scratch. Sorry, it's not people with long hair and coiffured perms in silk playing millions of notes with a violin bow. And that's my hint and tip to Led Zeppelin. It's more about, again, like I said before, it's more about creating music to fit the music. A lot of times in the 80s, particularly in the 80s, mid-80s, when metal was sort of at its pomp before it sort of dropped off again, music producers, you heard solos in all sorts of places. Bros, for God's sake, had a guitar solo, I know those out there don't know who Bros are, ask your parents or YouTube them. Pop band of the 80s, Duran Duran, great pop band, great musicians actually, from a sort of punk background. So their guitar solos, they probably didn't want them. They probably wanted synth ones, but their producers were saying, look, hey, we need to gain and keep the guitar audience. And so it was overused and overproduced, and then it became sort of the heavy metal calling card, didn't it? The million note solo that sort of went nowhere. Again, I sort of go back to what I said in the first part. If you have a solo with a million notes, where's the soul in it? Where's the beauty in it? Just because you know how to play 35 notes in a minute doesn't mean that you should. There are some people out there. I personally saw Steve Vai during his Passion and Warfare tour. I have the album. I love the album. I saw him with Whitesnake at Donington. I wanted so desperately his 7-string guitar when he produced it and brought it out. I wouldn't know how to use it, but I wanted it. Side note, I love guitars. I want to have lots of them around me all the time. They bring me pleasure. How can a piece of lump of wood and some metal give you so much pleasure, as as the priest said to the nun. Anyway, I just absolutely adored him at the time, and because he made this sounds that were not for everyone's cup of tea, because they're quite clean, they're quite clinical. There's lots of very clever studio trickery in there. It's not like the Van Halens that was all speed and brutality. It was and aggression. His was more about coming from that classical trained sides, like Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads could play a million notes, but my God, if you ever heard him listen to any of his classical work, he just is a musical genius. But he also knew how to play dirty, filthy rock and roll that Ozzy really liked. Same. Some people don't like Zakk Wylde because he too much pinch harmonics. Every other note's a pinch harmonic. If you don't know what a pinch harmonic is, for those people out there, squealies, they call them. It's when you hit the string and you mute it and you follow it through with your thumb after with the pick, and it depends on where you hit it on the body of the guitar. You get a different pitch or squeal from the pickup. I was never very good at them. I practiced them for ages, could never do it. So the fact that Zakk can do it at will is pretty clever. Anyway, what was I saying? So a million notes. So back in the 80s, this sound came through where they were just wanting to make everything was all about blah, 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 blah. Sorry if I was too close to the mic. And then you get these speed merchants. You Wenge J. Malmsteen, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to say Michael Battisto. People doing The Flight of the Bumblebee, 200 beats per minute and all that sort of stuff. Smart, clever, nerdy to some people, but a lot of the time I'll switch off. Genuinely will switch off. Like one of the guitarists that I like to watch a lot, actually, or listen to, and I've watched it only once live. I've watched him on YouTube a few times. As I mentioned before, is my friend Joseph from Pure Envy. He plays in a thrash band from Newcastle up towards Sydney or past Sydney in Australia, for those outside of Australia. He's a lovely guy. He's a guitar teacher now as well, but he has this innate sense, and his guitar body, Andy, as well, has this innate sense of power and rhythm without being overwhelming. Like that's why I can't put on Dragon Force too often, because it just becomes a kind of white noise. Another great Australian guitarist, if you get a chance to YouTube, is Pliny. Pliny is a band, but he's also a guitarist. He makes his own guitars, plays beautiful, achingly beautiful solo instrumental guitar pieces. And I mean, this is only the world of metal we're talking about. I could go into punk, I could go into rock and roll, I could go into all sorts of areas, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to stick with this. But as I said, so towards the middle of the 80s, it was not about like where Dave Gilmour had written pieces on Dark Side of the Moon and on Animals and The Wall, where it was all stark and spacious, and it drew you into a world that you could imagine the landscapes of the lyric. It moved to being, look how fast, and everyone would be faster and faster and louder and faster and quicker. And guitars then were manufactured to move that way. They scallop frets and lower actions, and the amount of pedals you could hide all your mistakes. I mean, I'm not a good guitarist by any means. I'm a relatively good bass player. I'm an okay guitarist, but as a guitarist, you could hide all your mistakes through masses of pedals, and it doesn't always work. All right. So where am I coming? Where am I? My conclusion for this program today, a bit of a sort of off all over the place program, but my conclusion is this: if you like a million notes in your solos, brilliant. I personally like mine to have feeling and texture and dynamism. I want speed, yeah, don't get me wrong. Speed is wonderful in the right hands for the right reason, but it's not always for me. So if I'm looking for a solo, what are the best solos? Honestly, I couldn't even tell you what my favourite solo. I could tell. I'm going to tell you what my favourite solo is, guys out there. Go out there, YouTube it. Look for it on Spotify. It is actually a Marillion solo. Surprise, surprise. It's Stephen Rothery's solo is 2, actually. One in the Fish era Marillion, the solo in Tux On. That's Tux On, Tuxon. And the solo in the Hogarth era off of the Season's End album, Easter. It's beautiful. It's just wonderful. Of course, anything by Gary Moore is going to make me go weak at the knees. Of course, and he has an amazing technique and speed. I know I've missed lots of guitarists out there, and I know you guitarists out there who are listening to this are going to go, Tone, you missed this and you didn't get that. And the point is, and what I was trying to say was, the best solos are them that you'll hear, in my opinion, are made with music between the notes. So the sounds between the notes, the silences, the pause, the held note, the slight echo, everything that's between the note is where the music and the solo is at its best. I was talking to someone the other day about Clive Burr. I know it's good drumming here, but Clive Burr of Iron Maiden fame, God rest your soul, Clive. He was the most amazing and wonderful swing drummer you'll ever hear. He had the most amazing swing, but you wouldn't think of him as a swing drummer. You think of him as an Iron Maiden heavy metal drummer. But if you listen to the drums on Number of the Beast, that opening drum piece on Number of the Beast is pure swing. It's so in every instrument, it's the notes between the notes, the sounds between the notes, the pauses, the silences. Anyway, I'm sure you've all got great guitars that you love there, and if you love the Speed Merchants, good on you. If you like subtlety, good on you. If you want crunching, like my wife, for instance, does not like guitar solos, loves crunching A chords, B chords, and power chords, and just wants to be hit in the face and the chest with power. And I love that as well. That's why I love Geordie from Killing Joke, because he doesn't play solos. He plays atonal pieces of music which just pummel you into the earth. And that's not what we're here. I'm talking about today. I'm talking about solos. I digress. So, from simple solos in the blues on one string to million note solos by Speed Merchants like Van Halen and Malmsteen, and I'm sure millions of others I have forgot to mention. Whatever rocks your boat, rocks your boat. But as I said, go back, sit down, listen to what they're not playing. Go and put some Dave Gilmour on and listen to what he doesn't play, because that's the genius of a great guitarist. Same with Clapton as well. Same with Jeff Beck, and same with Peter Green. All right, same with George Harrison, all of them. Anyway, that's been me, your podcast host, Tony Evans at Heavy Metal Tones. Please come and talk to me at heavymetaltones@gmail.com, or my Facebook page at Nwabum and All Things Metal. I'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe, please like, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. It helps with my dynamic, with my numbers. I would say thank you guys in Ghana. I was number 17 in the Ghana music charts only a few weeks ago. I really thank you very much. In Australia, I've hit 158. Pretty proud of that as well. Let's just keep getting this little podcast up and up if we can. Again, thank you from across the world. I'm looking forward to next week's series of podcasts, which are going to be the 7 dates of Noel. 7 interesting 10-minute podcasts, each releasing on the day in the Christmas week. So from the Monday to the Sunday. Come join me. Save them all up, listen at once, or listen to them daily. It's up to you. Thank you again for everything, and I'll see you on the flip side, guys. And if you don't listen to me and I don't talk to you before Christmas, have a safe and merry one. Bye, guys.
Get the best workout with the best-kept secret in fitness. Hydro, the state-of-the-art at-home rower. Hydro engages 86% of your muscles, delivering the ultimate full-body workout in just 20 minutes. From advanced to beginner, Hydro has over 4,000 classes that are shot all over the world and are taught by Olympians and world-class athletes. For a 30-day risk-free trial with free standard shipping, go to hydro.com and use code ROW500 to save up to $500. That's HYDROW.com, code ROW500.
1-800-Flowers.com is more than your birthday, anniversary, or just because gift-giving destination. We put our hearts into everything we do to help you celebrate all life's special occasions with friends and family. From our farmers and bakers, florists and makers, everything from 1-800-Flowers is made with love every step of the way, because we know that nothing is more important than delivering a smile. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.